Rebecca Wilson finds herself caught in a family feud when her sister Miranda publicly humiliates her daughter Lily at a birthday celebration. The hurtful note inside a gift bag turns what should be a happy occasion into a nightmare. Rebecca must choose between maintaining peace and defending her child from emotional abuse. What follows is a story of standing up for family, setting boundaries, and finding strength in vulnerability. If you've ever faced family toxicity, this story will resonate. Like and subscribe for more tales of triumph. Before I dive into my story, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to join our supportive community. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this family drama unfolds and the satisfying conclusion that changed everything. Family is supposed to be your safe haven, your support system. At least that's what I always believed growing up. My name is Rebecca Wilson, and I've been married to my wonderful husband Daniel for 16 years now. We have two amazing children, our 14-year-old daughter Lily and 12-year-old son Ethan. On paper, we're the picture-perfect American family living in a suburban neighborhood with our golden retriever Max. But beneath that facade lies a complicated family dynamic that has haunted me since childhood. My older sister Miranda is only 2 years my senior, but growing up, those 2 years might as well have been 20. Miranda was always the golden child in our family. She excelled at everything she touched, straight as in school, captain of the volleyball team, class president, you name it. Meanwhile, I struggled academically, particularly with math and science. While my parents never explicitly compared us, the silent expectations loomed large in our household. "Rebecca, why can't you be more organized like your sister?" my mother would say when my room was messy. Or, "Miranda already knew her multiplication tables by your age," when I brought home a poor math grade. These seemingly innocent comments planted seeds of inadequacy that grew into a forest of insecurity. As adults, our paths diverged even further. Miranda married Trevor, a successful investment banker, and they built a life of luxury in a gated community across town. Their matching BMW SUVs, annual European vacations, and country club memberships became the new measuring stick. They have twin daughters, Sophia and Olivia, who are 15 now, perfect replicas of their mother with their straight-A report cards and designer wardrobes. I became an elementary school teacher and married Daniel, a kind-hearted architect who prioritizes family time over climbing the corporate ladder. We live comfortably but modestly. Our daughter Lily is nothing like her cousins. She's artistic, musical, and wonderfully sensitive. She sees beauty in the world that others miss and expresses it through her art and music. My son Ethan is a science whiz who loves building robots and reading about space. Over the years, Miranda's competitive nature never waned. It simply transferred to our children. Every family gathering became a showcase for her daughter's achievements, always followed by subtle digs at my children, especially Lily. "Oh, Lily's still doing art? That's nice. Sophia just won the regional math Olympiad," she'd say with a smile that never reached her eyes. Or, "Those jeans are getting snug on Lily, aren't they?" Olivia has to watch her figure too, with all her ballet training. Each comment was like a paper cut, seemingly minor but surprisingly painful. And they added up over time. I'd see Lily shrink a little with each interaction, but I rarely confronted Miranda directly. I told myself I was keeping the peace for our aging Mother Grace's sake. Mom is now turning 70 and has enough health concerns without dealing with her daughters bickering like teenagers. Last Christmas, Miranda commented on Lily's acne while helping with dishes in the kitchen. "Poor thing, have you taken her to a dermatologist?" Olivia had one pimple last year, and we immediately got her on prescription medication. When I suggested that Lily's skin would clear up naturally, Miranda scoffed. "I guess we just have different standards for our girls." That night, I found Lily applying layers of concealer before bed. "I don't want Aunt Miranda to see my face tomorrow," she explained quietly. My heart broke, but still, I didn't confront my sister. Instead, I comforted Lily and reminded her that her worth wasn't determined by her appearance or her aunt's opinions. As my mother's 70th birthday approached, I felt the familiar dread building. The celebration would be held at Miranda's house, her insistence, of course, and I knew what that meant. Another opportunity for Miranda to showcase her perfect life and make subtle comparisons. But this was an important milestone for Mom, and I was determined to make it special for her, despite my misgivings. "It'll be fine," Daniel reassured me the night before as I fretted over what to wear. "We'll go, celebrate Grace, and focus on making good memories." I nodded, wishing I shared his optimism. Little did I know that this particular family gathering would become a turning point in our lives, one that would force me to finally confront the toxic dynamic I'd tolerated for far too long. The morning of my mother's birthday, I spent extra time helping Lily get ready. She'd chosen a lovely blue sundress that complemented her eyes and styled her brown hair in loose waves. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, I saw a flicker of nervousness cross her face. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," I assured her, squeezing her shoulders gently. "Do you think Aunt Miranda will like it?" she asked, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her dress. The fact that my daughter was so concerned about my sister's approval made my stomach knot. "What matters is that you feel good in what you're wearing," I replied, carefully sidestepping the question. We arrived at Miranda's sprawling colonial-style home at exactly noon. She'd insisted we come early to help set up, though I suspected it was more about having an audience for her party planning prowess than actual assistance. "You're finally here," Miranda greeted us at the door, her critical gaze immediately sweeping over our appearance. She was impeccably dressed in a designer outfit that probably cost more than our monthly mortgage payment. "Lily, that dress is very youthful," she commented with a thin smile. "And your hair, did you try to curl it? I have a straightener you could borrow if you'd like." Before I could intervene, Daniel stepped forward with the gift bag containing Mom's present. "Where would you like us to put this, Miranda? And what can we help with?" Miranda directed Daniel to a table already laden with perfectly wrapped packages, while instructing Ethan to help Trevor set up additional chairs in the backyard. She pulled me into the kitchen where caterers were arranging elaborate platters. "I went with the higher-end catering service," she informed me while adjusting an already perfect flower arrangement. "Mom deserves the best for her 70th, and since I'm hosting, I wanted everything to be special." The implication was clear. She didn't believe I could have provided the same quality celebration. I bit my tongue and asked what tasks needed completing. When Mom arrived 30 minutes later, her face lit up seeing the family gathered. At 70, Grace Wilson remained remarkably spry despite her arthritis. Her silver hair was styled in a classic bob, and she beamed as she entered, momentarily distracting from the underlying tension. "My girls together again," she exclaimed, pulling Miranda and me into a group hug. "This is already the perfect birthday." Other family members began arriving. Our cousin Jennifer and her husband Mark, Uncle Philip with his new girlfriend, and Dorothy, who had flown in from Arizona. The house filled with chatter and laughter, creating a pleasant atmosphere that almost made me forget my apprehension. Almost. During dinner, served on Miranda's formal china in her meticulously decorated dining room, the conversation inevitably turned to the accomplishments of the younger generation. Miranda wasted no time highlighting her daughter's recent achievements. "Sophia just found out she's been accepted into the summer program at Stanford," she announced, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Only 50 students nationwide are selected." Murmurs of appreciation circulated around the table as Sophia smiled modestly. "And Olivia placed first in the state tennis championship last weekend," Miranda continued. "The coach says she has potential for a college scholarship if she continues on this trajectory." More congratulations followed while Olivia graciously acknowledged the praise. Then, as I'd anticipated, Miranda turned her attention to my children. "What about you, Lily? Any exciting news from school?" The question seemed innocent enough, but I recognized the trap. Lily glanced at me nervously before speaking. My art teacher submitted one of my paintings to a youth exhibition at the community center." "That's wonderful, dear," my mother interjected warmly. I jumped in to elaborate. Actually, her piece was one of only 10 selected from the entire district. The exhibition opens next month. Miranda's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "How nice. Art is such a lovely hobby. I've always thought creative outlets are important for children, even if they're not pursuing them seriously. Lily's quite serious about her art, Daniel countered politely. Her teacher thinks she has considerable talent. Well, everyone needs something they enjoy, Miranda replied dismissively. Not everyone can excel academically, after all. Speaking of which, Sophia, why don't you tell everyone about your research project? The conversation moved on, but I noticed Lily pushing food around her plate, her earlier enthusiasm deflated. I caught Daniel's eye across the table, and his sympathetic look mirrored my frustration. After dinner came the gift-giving ceremony. Miranda had orchestrated an elaborate presentation from her twins, a custom-made photo album chronicling Grace's life, complete with digitally restored vintage photographs and heartfelt messages from extended family members who couldn't attend. We worked on this for months, Miranda explained as our mother dabbed tears from her eyes. Nothing but the best for you, Mom. When it was our turn, Lily nervously presented her grandmother with a carefully wrapped package. Inside was a hand-painted landscape of the lake house where we'd spent summers during childhood, a place filled with treasured memories for my mother. Oh, Lily, Grace gasped, genuinely moved. This is absolutely beautiful. You've captured it perfectly, right down to the old dock where your mother and aunt used to jump into the water. She hugged Lily tightly. I'll hang this in my living room where I can see it every day. The sincere reaction to Lily's gift seemed to irritate Miranda, who quickly redirected attention to the cake she'd specially ordered from an upscale bakery. Throughout the rest of the afternoon, I noticed her watching Lily with a critical eye, making occasional comments about her posture or how much dessert she was eating. I kept waiting for the party to end, for the relief of heading home and escaping the constant scrutiny. But Miranda had other plans that would turn an already tense family gathering into something far worse. As the birthday celebration was winding down and some guests had already departed, Miranda clinked her glass to get everyone's attention. The remaining family members, our immediate families, Mom, Uncle Philip, and Aunt Dorothy, gathered in the living room. Before everyone leaves, I thought we should continue a special tradition, Miranda announced with a smile that immediately put me on edge. A small gift exchange between cousins to strengthen their bond. I exchanged a confused glance with Daniel. This was no tradition I'd ever heard of, and judging by the surprised expressions around the room, no one else was familiar with it either. But Miranda continued, as if this were a long-established family custom. Sophia and Olivia have prepared something special for each other and for their cousin Lily, she explained. Girls, go ahead. The twins presented each other with small jewelry boxes containing matching charm bracelets. They hugged and thanked each other enthusiastically, clearly rehearsed for this moment. Then Sophia retrieved a beautifully wrapped gift bag adorned with silver tissue paper and presented it to Lily with an unmistakable smirk. This is for you, cousin, she said in a syrupy voice. We picked it out especially. Lily looked genuinely surprised and pleased as she accepted the gift. Thank you, she said, carefully removing the tissue paper. Her expression changed as she pulled out a book titled, How to Be Exceptional, Achieving Success When You Feel Average. There's a note, Olivia prompted, barely containing her amusement. Lily unfolded a small card and read aloud, confusion evident in her voice. Try harder next year. The room fell silent for a moment before Miranda let out a light laugh, quickly joined by her daughters. A few other family members chuckled uncertainly, perhaps assuming this was some inside joke they weren't privy to. I watched the color drain from Lily's face as understanding dawned. This wasn't a gift. It was a deliberate humiliation disguised as generosity. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked from the book to her cousins' amused faces. I don't understand, my mother said from her place of honor, unable to see the book title or note from where she sat. What's the gift, dear? Before Lily could respond, I stood up. It's not a gift, Mom. It's an insult. My voice came out steadier than I expected, given the rage building inside me. Trevor, who had been engrossed in his phone, finally looked up and seemed to assess the situation. A flicker of discomfort crossed his face, but he remained silent. Don't be so sensitive, Rebecca, Miranda waved dismissively. It's just a bit of motivation. Lily could use some guidance on setting higher standards for herself. Are you serious right now? I asked, incredulous. You think humiliating my daughter at a family gathering is motivational? Miranda rolled her eyes. This is exactly why Lily is so fragile. You coddle her too much. The real world isn't going to be so gentle with her mediocrity. Gasps echoed around the room. Even Aunt Dorothy, who typically stayed neutral during family disputes, looked appalled. Miranda, my mother exclaimed. What a terrible thing to say. It's fine, Mom, I interrupted, gathering Lily's coat and purse. We're leaving. Oh, stop being so dramatic, Miranda huffed. Lily needs to toughen up. Not everyone gets a trophy in real life. She's 14 years old, and your daughter's just deliberately humiliated her, Daniel said, his normally calm demeanor replaced with barely contained anger. That's not motivation, it's bullying. Uncle Philip awkwardly cleared his throat. Maybe it was just meant as a joke that didn't land well? A joke, I repeated, putting my arm around Lily's shoulders as she tried to hold back tears. Please explain what's funny about making a child feel worthless. You're overreacting, Miranda insisted, though several family members were now shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Sophia and Olivia were just trying to help their cousin reach her potential. Sophia and Olivia exchanged glances, their earlier smugness wavering slightly as the atmosphere in the room grew increasingly tense. We're leaving, Daniel stated firmly, no longer asking. Mom, we'll call you tomorrow. I'm sorry your birthday ended this way. Grace looked confused and distressed. Can't we talk about this? I'm sure Miranda didn't mean any harm. I think she meant exactly what happened, I replied, fighting to keep my voice from breaking. And I won't subject Lily to any more of it today. As we gathered our things, family members split into factions, some attempting to defuse the situation, others quietly backing away, and a few shooting disapproving glances at Miranda, who maintained her position that we were overreacting. This is ridiculous, she declared as we headed for the door. You're ruining Mom's birthday over a simple joke. I stopped and turned to face my sister one last time. Miranda, there's nothing simple or funny about what just happened. And if you can't see that, then we have a much bigger problem than I realized. The drive home was painfully quiet except for Lily's occasional sniffles from the back seat. Ethan sat beside his sister, awkwardly patting her hand. Daniel focused on driving, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. And I sat with a toxic mixture of emotions churning inside me, anger at Miranda, guilt for not preventing the situation, and heartbreak for my daughter's pain. I kept replaying all the times I'd let Miranda's behavior slide for the sake of family harmony. All the small cruelties I'd overlooked, the cutting remarks I'd pretended not to hear. In trying to keep the peace, I'd allowed my child to become a target. The realization sat like a stone in my stomach. When we finally arrived home, Lily went straight to her room. I stood in the hallway, listening to her muffled sobs through the door, feeling like I'd failed in the most fundamental duty of parenthood, protecting my child from harm. What do we do now? I asked Daniel when he joined me. His expression was resolute. Now we stop pretending this is normal family dynamics. Now we do something about it. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed and turned beside Daniel, replaying the day's events in an endless loop. Around midnight, I gave up and wandered downstairs to make some tea, surprised to find Daniel already at the kitchen table, staring into a mug of his own. I can't stop thinking about her face, he said quietly as I joined him. When she read that note, I nodded, feeling the ache in my chest intensify. I know. I keep asking myself how I let it get to this point. We both did, Daniel sighed. We thought we were taking the high road by not engaging, but maybe we just enable Miranda's behavior. My phone buzzed with yet another message. Since we'd left the party, it had been a constant stream of notifications. I scrolled through them. An apologetic text from Jennifer, a confused message from my mother asking what really happened, a defensive paragraph from Miranda claiming I'd overreacted and embarrassed her in front of everyone. Most concerning was a group text from Aunt Dorothy to the extended family discussing the unfortunate incident and suggesting everyone give both sides space to cool down. The family was already taking sides in a conflict that shouldn't exist in the first place. As if summoned by my thoughts, the phone rang, my mother's number flashing on the screen. "Mom, it's midnight," I answered, trying to keep the exhaustion from my voice. "I couldn't sleep," she replied, her voice small and worried. "Rebecca, what happened today?" "Miranda says you misunderstood a harmless gift." I explained in detail, describing the book title and the note. "It wasn't harmless, Mom. It was deliberately cruel." "Oh, dear," she sighed. "I'm sure Miranda didn't intend it that way. You know how she can be sometimes, a bit insensitive but never malicious." "Mom, this goes beyond insensitivity. This was calculated to hurt Lily and make her feel inferior. But to leave without saying goodbye to me on my birthday." The guilt trip, however unintentional, was the last straw. "I'm sorry if our departure upset you, but I needed to protect my daughter. I hope you can understand that." After promising to visit her soon, I ended the call feeling even more drained. "She doesn't get it," I told Daniel. "Or she doesn't want to." "What do you want to do?" he asked, covering my hand with his. "We could just cut contact with Miranda. Plenty of people distance themselves from toxic family members." "And have Lily think running away is the solution? That her aunt's behavior drove us apart?" I shook my head. "No, I'm done avoiding conflict. This pattern stops now." We spent the next hour brainstorming appropriate responses, everything from a formal family meeting to a strongly worded email. Nothing felt right until I remembered something my therapist had once told me. Boundaries aren't about controlling others. They're about clarifying what you will and won't accept in your life. As we discussed potential boundaries, a soft voice interrupted our planning. "Mom?"
"Dad."
Lily stood in the doorway in her pajamas, eyes puffy from crying. I couldn't sleep either. "Come here, sweetheart," I said, making room for her at the table. "Hot chocolate." She nodded, settling into the chair beside me. As Daniel prepared her drink, I noticed how small she looked, hunched in on herself, as if trying to disappear. "I'm so sorry about today," I began. "It's not your fault," she said quickly. "Aunt Miranda has always been like that." "What do you mean, always?" Daniel asked, placing the steaming mug in front of her. Lily cupped her hands around the warm ceramic, not meeting our eyes. This wasn't the first time. Sophia and Olivia say stuff like that to me all the time when adults aren't around. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. "What kind of things do they say?" Lily shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant despite the tremor in her voice. "That I'm not pretty enough or smart enough. That nobody at school probably likes me. That my art is childish and I'll never be successful." She took a shaky breath. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to make things worse. Everyone always tries so hard to keep Aunt Miranda happy." Daniel and I exchanged pained glances over her head. All this time, while we'd been tiptoeing around Miranda's feelings, our daughter had been suffering in silence. "Why didn't you tell us?" I asked gently. "Because every time there's a problem with Aunt Miranda, everyone gets upset, and then Grandma gets sad, and then you look stressed for days." Lily's voice grew smaller. "I thought it was easier to just deal with it myself." My heart shattered at the realization that my daughter had been protecting me when it should have been the other way around. The weight of my failure as a parent in this situation felt crushing. "Lily, listen to me," I said, taking her hands in mine. "You never have to endure anyone being cruel to you to keep the peace or protect my feelings. Never. Do you understand?" She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "What happened today was wrong," Daniel added firmly. "And we're going to address it, not ignore it."
"How?"
Lily asked, looking between us. "We're going to set some clear boundaries with Aunt Miranda and your cousins," I explained. "And we're going to stand by them, even if it creates temporary discomfort in the family." For the next hour, the three of us talked openly about the situation. Lily shared more instances of her cousin's bullying, each revelation making me more determined to end this toxic pattern. By the time we all headed back to bed, the outlines of a plan had formed in my mind. Morning brought no apology from Miranda. Not that I'd expected one. Instead, she'd posted photos from the party on social media with a passive-aggressive caption about some people not being able to take a joke. I spent the early hours drafting a carefully worded email to my sister. No accusations or emotional language, just a clear, factual account of what had happened, why it was unacceptable, and what would need to change for us to continue having a relationship. I attached photos of the gift and note, then sent copies to everyone who had been present at the party. "Are you sure about this?" Daniel asked as I hovered over the send button. "I've never been more sure of anything," I replied and clicked. Next, I prepared a special package, a beautifully wrapped gift bag containing items I'd selected with great care. Each had symbolic meaning, a message I hoped would penetrate my sister's defenses. "I want to come with you," Lily said when I explained my plan to visit Miranda's house the following morning. "Are you sure? You don't have to face her." Lily straightened her shoulders, a new determination in her eyes. "I'm sure. I don't want to hide anymore." Her courage brought tears to my eyes. My daughter was showing more strength than I had in years of dealing with my sister. It was time I followed her example. The next morning dawned clear and bright, a stark contrast to the emotional storm we were about to enter. Lily and I prepared for our visit to Miranda's house, both nervous but resolute. The gift bag sat between us in the car as we drove, its contents carefully chosen for maximum impact. "Remember," I told Lily as we navigated through Miranda's upscale neighborhood, "this isn't about revenge or stooping to her level. It's about setting boundaries and standing up for ourselves." "I know, Mom," Lily replied, fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "I'm not angry anymore. I just want them to understand how it feels." We rehearsed what we might say, discussing different scenarios and how to respond calmly no matter what reaction we received. As we pulled into Miranda's circular driveway, I noticed both family cars were present. Perfect. Everyone would be home for breakfast on a Sunday morning. "Ready?" I asked, turning off the engine. Lily took a deep breath and nodded. "Ready." The doorbell echoed inside the house, followed by footsteps approaching. Trevor opened the door, surprise evident on his face when he saw us. "Rebecca? Lily? We weren't expecting you." His expression was guarded, but not unwelcoming. Of all Miranda's family, Trevor had always been the most reasonable, though his tendency to avoid conflict meant he rarely intervened in family disputes. "We need to speak with Miranda," I said simply. "Is she available?" Before Trevor could answer, Miranda appeared behind him, still in her silk pajamas and robe, coffee mug in hand. Her expression hardened when she saw us. "What are you doing here?" she asked coldly. "If you've come to apologize for ruining Mom's birthday, you could have called first." "May we come in?" I asked, ignoring her accusation. "This won't take long." Trevor stepped aside, motioning us in despite Miranda's obvious reluctance. We followed them to their expansive kitchen where the remains of breakfast were still on the table. Sophia and Olivia sat scrolling through their phones, looking up with wide eyes when they noticed us. "Whatever this is, can it wait?" Miranda sighed dramatically. "We have plans today." "Actually, no," I replied evenly. "This has waited far too long already." Miranda rolled her eyes. "If you're here to lecture me again about that silly gift, you're wasting your time. It was just a joke that you blew completely out of proportion." "We brought you something," Lily said, her voice steady despite her nervous fidgeting. She held out the gift bag we'd brought. Miranda looked suspiciously at the bag. "What is this supposed to be?" "Just open it," I encouraged. "Please." With obvious reluctance, Miranda took the bag and peered inside. "A picture frame? A letter? What is this, some kind of guilt trip?" "Take everything out," I instructed calmly, and read the letter. Miranda extracted the items one by one. A framed photograph of us as children, arms around each other at the lake house, a sealed envelope, a small hand mirror, and finally, a handcrafted bracelet made of colorful beads. "The bracelet is from me," Lily explained quietly. "I made it in art class last month." Miranda looked bewildered, holding the bracelet as if it might bite her. "Why would you give me this after what happened?" Because that's what real gifts are, Lily answered. Things you give to show love, not to hurt someone. A flash of something, perhaps shame, crossed Miranda's face before she masked it with indifference. And the rest of this? What's the point? The photo is to remind you of who we used to be, I explained. Before competition and comparison took over our relationship. The mirror is for reflection on who you've become and whether that's really who you want to be. This is ridiculous, Miranda scoffed, though she couldn't quite meet my eyes. And the letter, I continued, details every instance of cruelty you've directed at Lily over the years, and there are many more than I realized until recently. You're exaggerating, Miranda insisted. Children need to develop thick skin. Read it, I challenged. Out loud, just like Lily had to read your daughter's note in front of everyone yesterday. Trevor, who had been watching silently, spoke up. Maybe we should all listen, Miranda. With obvious reluctance, Miranda opened the envelope and began reading. As she progressed through the letter, her voice grew less certain. I had documented specific incidents, dates, comments, and most importantly, their impact on Lily. I described how Lily had cried herself to sleep after Miranda criticized her weight at Thanksgiving. How she'd stopped sharing her artwork after Miranda dismissed it as just a hobby. How she'd begun questioning her self-worth because of repeated comparisons to her more accomplished cousins. By the time Miranda finished reading, the kitchen was completely silent. Sophia and Olivia had put down their phones, their expressions a mixture of discomfort and surprise. Trevor looked genuinely distressed. And Miranda, my always composed, never wrong sister, seemed momentarily at a loss for words. Taking advantage of the silence, I spoke clearly and firmly. This is what bullying looks like, Miranda. Not motivation, not tough love, not preparing someone for the real world. Bullying. And it stops today. I never intended, Miranda began, then faltered. Intention doesn't matter when the result is harm, I replied. And I've allowed it to continue for too long because I was more concerned with keeping peace than protecting my daughter. That was my mistake, and I'm correcting it now. I outlined our boundaries moving forward. No more comparisons, no more unsolicited critiques, no more jokes at Lily's expense. If Miranda or her daughters couldn't interact respectfully with Lily, we would limit our contact. You're threatening to cut me off from my own family? Miranda asked incredulously. I'm explaining the consequences of continued harmful behavior, I clarified. The choice is yours. This is absurd, Miranda snapped, her momentary vulnerability replaced by defensiveness. You come into my home, accuse me of being some kind of monster, and threaten me with ultimatums? Mom, Sophia interrupted quietly. Is what Aunt Rebecca wrote true? Did we really make Lily feel that bad? The genuine concern in her voice seemed to catch Miranda off guard. Before she could answer, Lily spoke up. Yes, she said simply. Every time we're together, I leave feeling worse about myself. Like I'm not good enough no matter what I do. Olivia looked down at her hands. We didn't think. We were just teasing. It stopped being teasing a long time ago, Lily replied, her voice stronger now. And yesterday wasn't teasing at all. It was meant to hurt me, and it did. Trevor, who had been reading over the letter Miranda had discarded, looked up with an expression of dawning comprehension. I had no idea this was happening so consistently. Miranda, did you know about all of this? Miranda's face flushed. Don't you dare turn on me too, she hissed. Get out of my house, she told us, pointing toward the door. Get out now. As Lily and I turned to leave, Trevor surprised us all. Wait, he said firmly. Rebecca and Lily, please don't go yet. Miranda stared at her husband in shock. What are you doing? What I should have done a long time ago, he replied before turning to us. I'm sorry. I should have noticed what was happening and stepped in. This isn't okay, and it's not who I want our family to be. It's not too late to change things, I offered quietly. Miranda's face contorted with rage and embarrassment. You've turned everyone against me. Are you happy now? This isn't about being against you, Miranda, I explained. It's about stopping behavior that hurts people. Sophia stood up suddenly.
Lily, I'm sorry.
For the book and the note and everything else. We shouldn't have done that. Olivia nodded, looking genuinely remorseful. We thought it was just normal cousin stuff. We didn't realize how mean we were being. The sincerity in their apologies caught Miranda off guard. She looked from her daughters to her husband, realizing she stood alone in her defense of the indefensible. This conversation isn't over, Trevor told Miranda quietly. But right now, I think we owe Rebecca and Lily an apology. Miranda's face flushed deeper. This is ridiculous. All of you are overreacting to a simple joke. It wasn't a joke, Miranda, Trevor insisted. And deep down, you know that. As we finally turned to leave, Miranda's frustration exploded. She screamed after us, a sound of pure rage and humiliation that echoed through the house and followed us to the car. The sound wasn't triumphant for me. It was sad. It was the sound of someone confronting a truth they weren't ready to accept. Lily and I drove away in silence, both processing what had just happened. After several minutes, she spoke. Do you think anything will change? I reached over and squeezed her hand. I don't know, honey. But what I do know is that we've done our part. We stood up for ourselves with dignity and truth. Whatever happens next is up to them. The aftermath of our confrontation with Miranda spread through the family like wildfire. Within hours, my phone was buzzing with messages from relatives who had heard various versions of what happened. Some expressed support, others concern, and a few suggested I'd overreacted to sibling rivalry. It seemed everyone had an opinion about a situation few fully understood. Mom called that evening, her voice wavering between confusion and distress. Trevor called me, she began. He explained what's been happening with Lily. Is it really as bad as he says? Yes, Mom. I replied simply. It's been going on for years. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, sounding genuinely hurt. I tried in my way, I admitted. But you always seem to minimize it or make excuses for Miranda's behavior. After a while, it seemed easier to just manage it ourselves. A long silence followed before she spoke again. I failed you both, didn't I? As a mother. No, Mom, I assured her. You just wanted your daughters to get along. We all played our parts in this dynamic. By the end of our conversation, Mom had a clearer understanding of the situation and expressed her intention to speak with Miranda herself. This has gone on long enough, she declared with unusual firmness. It's time we addressed it as a family. The next morning, Daniel's phone rang during breakfast. It was Trevor, asking to speak with him privately. They talked for nearly an hour, and when Daniel returned to the kitchen, his expression was thoughtful. Trevor says he's been uncomfortable with Miranda's behavior for years, but never knew how to address it without causing more conflict, he explained. Apparently, after we left yesterday, he and Miranda had a serious conversation about her treatment of you and Lily. He says she was defensive at first, but eventually broke down. Broke down how? I asked, skeptical of a sudden change of heart. He says she locked herself in their bedroom for hours, then emerged wanting to talk. He thinks our visit forced her to confront some uncomfortable truths. I wanted to believe change was possible, but years of experience made me cautious. We'll see, was all I could offer. Later that day, we received another surprise when Sophia sent Lily a text message. I'm really sorry about what we did. It wasn't funny, and it wasn't right. I've been thinking a lot about what you and your mom said. Can we talk sometime? Lily showed me the message, uncertainty in her eyes. What should I do? That's entirely up to you, I told her. You don't owe her forgiveness or a response. But if you want to talk to her, that's okay too. After some consideration, Lily replied with a simple, I appreciate your apology. I need some time, but maybe we can talk next week. Over the next few days, more family members reached out, many sharing their own experiences with Miranda's difficult behavior. Cousin Jennifer admitted she'd stopped bringing her son to family gatherings because Miranda constantly compared him unfavorably to her twins. Uncle Philip confessed he'd been the target of Miranda's cutting remarks about his career choices for years. It seemed our confrontation had lanced a family boil that had been festering far longer than I realized. A week after our showdown, Mom called with news that surprised us all. "I've arranged a family meeting," she announced. "At my house, neutral territory. Just you, Daniel, the children, Miranda, Trevor, and the twins. I think it's time we cleared the air properly." My immediate instinct was to refuse. Why subject Lily to more potential hurt? But when I mentioned the invitation to her, she surprised me with her response. "I want to go," she said decisively. "Running away doesn't solve anything, right? That's what you and Dad always say." Her maturity humbled me. At 14, she was showing more courage than I had in decades of dealing with my sister. "We'll support whatever decision you make," Daniel assured her. "But you don't have to do this." "I know," Lily replied. "But I think I need to, for me." The day of the family meeting arrived with a tension that had my stomach in knots. We drove to my mother's modest home in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. When we arrived, Trevor's car was already in the driveway. Mom greeted us at the door with nervous energy, ushering us into the living room where Miranda, Trevor, Sophia, and Olivia were already seated. Miranda didn't meet my eyes, her gaze fixed on her clasped hands. The twins looked uncomfortable but managed small waves at Lily, who nodded in acknowledgement. "Thank you all for coming," Mom began once we were settled. "I think we all know why we're here. Our family has developed some unhealthy patterns that have hurt people I love, and it's time we address them openly and honestly." Miranda shifted in her seat, but remained silent. "Rebecca and Lily," Mom continued, "I want to start by apologizing to you both. I should have recognized what was happening and intervened. I'm sorry I failed you." Her sincerity brought unexpected tears to my eyes. "Thank you, Mom." "Trevor has something he'd like to say as well," Mom prompted. Trevor cleared his throat, looking directly at Lily. "I want to apologize for not stepping in when I should have. As an adult in the family, it was my responsibility to ensure you were treated with kindness and respect in our home. I failed in that responsibility, and I'm truly sorry." Lily nodded, visibly moved by his apology. "Girls?" Trevor prompted his daughters. Sophia spoke first, her usual confidence replaced by genuine contrition. "Lily, I'm really sorry for how we've treated you. The gift was cruel, and so were a lot of other things we've said and done over the years. You didn't deserve any of it. We got caught up in trying to impress our mom," Olivia added quietly. "But that's no excuse. We were mean and we're sorry." Throughout these apologies, Miranda remained silent, tension radiating from her rigid posture. When all eyes eventually turned to her, she initially stared at the floor. "Miranda?" Mom prompted gently. My sister finally looked up, and I was startled to see her eyes were red-rimmed. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice lacking its usual confidence. "I don't even know where to start." "The truth would be a good place," I suggested, trying to keep my tone neutral. Miranda took a shaky breath. "The truth is, I've been awful. To Lily, to Rebecca, to a lot of people. And I've been telling myself it was just being honest or motivating or having high standards, but that was a lie." Her candor surprised me into silence. When Rebecca showed me that list of things I'd said and done, she continued, "At first I wanted to deny it all, but I couldn't. And seeing it all written out like that, it forced me to see myself the way others see me." Her voice broke. I didn't like what I saw. Trevor reached for her hand, which she gripped tightly. "Why?" I asked the question that had haunted me for years. "Why treat Lily that way? She's just a child." Miranda's composure cracked further. "Because she reminds me of you," she admitted. "And I've been competing with you my whole life." "Competing with me?" I repeated incredulously. "You were always the successful one, the golden child. What could you possibly be competing with me for?" "Mom and Dad's love," Miranda said simply. "They always seemed softer with you, more forgiving of your mistakes. With me, there were always expectations, standards to meet. I was never allowed to fail." Mom looked stricken. "Miranda, that's not true. We loved you both equally." "Maybe you did," Miranda acknowledged. "But it never felt that way to me. And somewhere along the line, I started believing I had to be perfect to be worthy of love. Then I imposed that same burden on my girls. She turned to her daughters. I'm sorry I've put so much pressure on you, that I've made you feel your worth depends on your achievements. Sophia and Olivia exchanged surprised glances, clearly unaccustomed to hearing such vulnerability from their mother. And Lily, Miranda continued, facing my daughter directly. What I did to you was inexcusable. I took out my insecurities on a child who never deserved it. I can't undo the hurt I've caused, but I want you to know I'm truly, deeply sorry. Lily, who had been listening intently throughout, nodded slowly. Thank you for saying that. Where do we go from here? Daniel asked, the practical question hanging in the air. I've started seeing a therapist, Miranda revealed, surprising us all. Trevor insisted, and he was right. I have a lot to work through. We'd like to try family therapy too, Trevor added. All four of us. And I think we need some new family rules, Mom suggested. Guidelines for how we treat each other going forward. For the next hour, we talked openly about boundaries, expectations, and steps toward healing. There were difficult moments and uncomfortable truths, but also glimpses of genuine connection that had been missing from our family for years. By the time we left, nothing was completely resolved. Years of toxic patterns couldn't be erased in one conversation, but something fundamental had shifted. The walls of denial had cracked, allowing light into dark corners of our family dynamic that had gone unexamined for too long. In the car on the way home, Lily was unusually quiet, processing everything she'd heard. Are you okay? I asked, watching her in the rearview mirror. She nodded thoughtfully. I think so. It's weird to hear Aunt Miranda admit she was wrong. Do you believe her? Daniel asked. Lily considered the question carefully. I'm not sure yet, but I think she meant what she said today. I guess we'll have to wait and see if things actually change. Her wisdom beyond her years made my heart swell with pride. Despite everything she'd endured, my daughter remained open to the possibility of healing and reconciliation, without compromising her own boundaries or self-respect. Whatever happens, I assured her, we'll face it together, and we won't stay silent anymore. 3 months passed, bringing gradual but significant changes to our family dynamic. The path wasn't straight or smooth. There were setbacks and difficult moments, but progress was undeniable. Miranda's family began attending therapy sessions, both individually and together. After several weeks, they invited us to join them for family counseling with their therapist, Dr. Bennett. These sessions, while sometimes emotionally challenging, provided a structured environment to address lingering issues and establish healthier patterns of communication. The hardest part, Miranda admitted during one session, is realizing how much of my behavior was a reflection of my own insecurities rather than anything Rebecca or Lily did. I've spent decades trying to prove my worth through achievement and perfectionism, then projecting those same impossible standards onto everyone around me. Dr. Bennett helped us identify toxic patterns that had been normalized in our family for generations. Competition can be healthy when it inspires growth, she explained. But when it becomes a means of determining who deserves love or respect, it turns destructive. Lily's relationship with her cousins evolved cautiously. Sophia reached out first, inviting Lily to attend an art exhibition at her school. The gesture, showing interest in something Lily valued, marked a meaningful shift. Olivia followed her sister's lead, asking Lily to teach her some basic drawing techniques for a school project. Small steps, but significant ones. The real breakthrough came when Lily's artwork was selected for a regional youth exhibition at the County Art Center. When the invitation arrived, Lily immediately asked if we could invite the extended family to the opening night. Are you sure? I asked, concerned about potential disappointment. There's no pressure to include everyone. I'm sure, she replied confidently. If things are really going to change, we need to give them a chance to show it. The evening of the exhibition arrived, and to my surprise, the entire family showed up. Not just Miranda and her family, but Mom, Uncle Philip, Aunt Dorothy, and several cousins. They gathered around Lily's landscape painting, genuinely admiring her technique and asking thoughtful questions about her process. Miranda approached me while Lily was explaining her artwork to Sophia. She's incredibly talented, my sister said quietly. I was so caught up in my narrow definition of success that I couldn't see the gift she has. It's not just technical skill, I replied. It's her perspective. She sees beauty in places most people overlook. Miranda nodded thoughtfully. I'm trying to learn that from her. To see value beyond the obvious metrics of success I've always focused on. Progress continued in small, meaningful ways. Sophia and Lily began texting regularly, discovering shared interests beyond their obvious differences. Miranda made visible efforts to check her critical comments, sometimes stopping mid-sentence when she caught herself slipping into old habits. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments and occasional tensions. Old patterns don't disappear overnight, and trust takes much longer to rebuild than to break. But the change in trajectory was clear. At our monthly family dinner 6 months after the confrontation, I watched in amazement as Sophia proudly showed everyone photos from a community art class she and Lily had taken together. Meanwhile, Olivia was enthusiastically describing Lily's help with her school presentation. I never would have gotten an A without her ideas, Olivia admitted. She helped me think about the project in a completely different way. Miranda, seated beside me, leaned over and whispered, "They've been good for each other, haven't they?" My girls needed Lily's creativity and perspective as much as I tried to deny it. Later that evening, as we prepared dessert in Mom's kitchen, Miranda broached a subject we'd both been avoiding. I've been thinking a lot about patterns, she said, carefully arranging cookies on a serving plate. About how I became so fixated on achievement and comparison. What conclusions have you reached? I asked, genuinely curious. That I learned it from watching Dad, she replied softly. The way he always pushed me to be the best, to never show weakness. I internalized that message so completely that I started inflicting it on my own children. She paused, hands stilling. And on Lily. It's strange how we can recognize these patterns and still repeat them, I acknowledged. I did the opposite, avoiding conflict at all costs because that's what Mom always did. In trying not to be like you, I enabled behavior that hurt my daughter. Miranda met my eyes directly.
I'm sorry, Rebecca. Truly.
For all of it. I know, I replied, surprised to find I genuinely believed her. And I'm sorry, too, for not speaking up sooner. For letting it continue for so long. As we carried dessert to the dining room, I observed the scene before me with new eyes. Mom laughing with Ethan about a science joke. Daniel deep in conversation with Trevor about a community project. Lily showing Sophia and Olivia techniques for drawing faces in her sketchbook. Not perfect harmony, but authentic connection, messy, imperfect, and real. Later that night, as Lily and I drove home ahead of Daniel and Ethan, she broke our comfortable silence with a question. Mom, do you think people can really change? Like, fundamentally change who they are? I considered her question carefully. I think people can become more aware of their patterns and make different choices. The capacity for change is always there, but it requires honesty and effort. She nodded, processing this. Aunt Miranda seems different now. Not completely different, but like she's trying. Yes, she is, I agreed. And that matters. I'm glad we didn't just cut them off, Lily admitted. Even though that would have been easier in some ways. Her maturity continued to amaze me. The easy path isn't always the most valuable one. By standing up for yourself with dignity instead of just walking away, you created an opportunity for genuine change, not just for yourself, but for everyone involved. As we pulled into our driveway, I thought about the lessons of the past months. How setting boundaries wasn't about controlling others, but about clarifying your own values. How confronting painful truths could be the first step toward healing. And how standing firm in your worth could create ripples that transform entire family systems. You know what I'm most proud of? I asked Lily as we walked to the front door. What? That you never let anyone else's opinion determine your value. Even when it hurt, you kept creating, kept being authentically yourself. That takes extraordinary courage. She smiled, a confident smile I hadn't seen often enough before. I learned it from you, Mom. When you finally stood up to Aunt Miranda, you showed me it was possible. Sometimes the most profound lessons we teach our children aren't the ones we intend, but the ones they witness in our moments of growth and courage. By confronting my sister that morning months ago, I'd not only protected my daughter, I'd shown her how to protect herself with dignity and strength. What do we teach our children when we tolerate disrespect? And conversely, what do we teach them when we stand firm in our boundaries with both courage and compassion? These questions extend beyond family dynamics to all relationships in life. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Has there been a time when you had to set a difficult boundary with someone you care about? How did you handle it? If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message today. Remember, you deserve to be treated with respect, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to clearly communicate where your boundaries lie. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I wish you courage in your own relationships.